"But you said to me," returned Estella, very earnestly, "God bless you, God forgive you. And if you could say that to me then, you will not hesitate to say that to me now, when suffering has been stronger than all other teaching, and has taught me to understand what your heart used to be. I have been bent and broken, but, I hope, into a better shape. Be as considerate and as good to me as you were, and tell me we are friends." "We are friends," said I, rising and bending over her as she rose from the bench. "And we will continue to be friends apart," said Estella. I took her hand in mine, and we went out of the ruined place. And, as the morning mists had risen long ago when I first left the forge, so the evening mists were rising now, and in all broad expanse of tranquil light they showed to me. I saw no shadow of another parting from her. This is a line from Charles Dickens' Great Expectations, and this is what I've chosen to perform my quarterly book analysis on. And more than a summary of the plot and what it means, as good as this book is, I think that this book is great in analyzing where it falls into the literary canon and all the things that it gave birth to. So I would suppose that Great Expectations, initially, comes from Hamlet. Very, very many parts of it. Very many parts of Pip are surely of Dickens' own creation, but it's kind of difficult not to take from Hamlet just because it's such a deep and all-encompassing character that it really lays the groundwork for a lot of what Pip is. His beginning as an orphan and that detachment from parents, I think, mirrors a lot of what is seen in Hamlet, and his sort of external assessment of his life, that he takes a step back and analyzes his own life rather than living it. And that's when he decides to, I want to go, this all sucks and I would love to go be a gentleman. But especially the relationship between Ophelia and Hamlet mirrors that of Estella and Pip. So seeing that there's these two people that really, really, Hamlet loves Ophelia, and eventually Ophelia comes around, but then she drowns. And Hamlet is kind of forgets about her. And I see that mirroring Estella and Pip a lot, seeing that, Pip is really, really into Estella and then forgets her for a brief time. Instead of Estella dying and drowning as Ophelia does, she just sort of forgets about him in the same way that Hamlet does to Ophelia. So there's a bit of a reversal there, but still it's analogous. And then the conflict stems from Havisham's marital issues, especially the conflict within the relationship between Pip and Estella, and it is Havisham sort of going down and saying you need to break his heart, and that he will love you no matter what, and sort of that matriarchal figure trying to control everything, that really mirrors the central conflict in Hamlet. And Pip being aided in conflict with his school friend Herbert Pocket, and sort of egged on by Bentley Drummle. This could go as far back as Aristophanes, but if we are to connect it to Hamlet, we are to say that these two, Bentley Drummle and Herbert Pocket, are analogous to Hamlet's own Rosencrantz and Guildenstern. And generally this concept of orphanhood and attacking it, and these marital issues all sort of come from Hamlet. Again, a lot of this is Dickens' own creation, Dickens' own twist on it, and it is very, very profoundly created, but very many parts are still taken from Hamlet himself. But seeing where this goes, so Hamlet goes into Great Expectations. Where does Great Expectations go from here? Well, the next time we really see a very, very profound character in the same sort of clothing as Pip is set in by Dickens is in W. Somerset, Moms of Human Bondage, a copy I have right here. The main character's name is Philip, so if you'll remember, that is Pip's Christian name. Pip is just his nickname. And seeing that he is an orphan himself, and seeing that iron leg in the beginning, even though Pip becomes a man of great expectations by this convict with an iron leg, he is still sort of tormented in the early novel by this idea and by the constant thought of, oh, I helped this person out and now it's going to come to get me. And he keeps seeing, people are going to find out that I helped this person and then I will be looked down upon and I will receive some sort of punishment. Which ends up being the great twist. He doesn't find punishment from this man. He is a man of great expectations from him, and it is only revealed at the end of the novel that it is from this convict that Pip is of great expectations and becomes a gentleman. But in the very early, when Pip is still being tormented by this idea, and this guy with the convict with the iron leg, it says, it becomes Clubfoot in Of Human Bondage. And we see that sort of becoming that Philip is really self-reliant now in Of Human Bondage, whereas in Great Expectations he is pushed on by these external factors. In Of Human Bondage he is always sort of himself being the only one pushing himself on, and he's really all on his own. And this is again, very famously a metaphor for Mom's own life with homosexuality, and becoming sort of defined by that. The title of Human Bondage comes from Spinoza's Ethics, and that's what we're seeing. Is we're seeing all these characters who are in bondage because of their condition and their relation to the world. And that is something that we will circle back on later at the end. But this sort of metaphor, and we even see help from the school, his school friends and Philip's own school life and his own pursuit, and then we see that sort of Biddy character mimicked in, I'm forgetting her name now, but the one that always wears the same dress every day and ends up killing herself tragically. And most notably in Of Human Bondage, we see Mildred mirroring that Estella character, and how her apathy and later antipathy is followed by what is laid out by Estella. The only thing now is Estella never comes around and says, we are still friends and I wish that I acted differently towards you in the beginning. It is now that Philip is really all on his own in Of Human Bondage, and has to find out for himself that Mildred will never come around. Mildred will never realize how kind a person Philip is. She only comes to him when she needs money, and he is the one who makes that decision to drop her and continue with his life. And then, so where does that go from there? So we have Hamlet, and then we have Great Expectations, which leads into Of Human Bondage. From there, I would suppose that we end up in F. Scott Fitzgerald's This Side of Paradise. And we have Amory consistently seeking to become somebody who he is not. So we see that same thing in Great Expectations. And sort of going along that line of he wants to be a social aristocrat so badly that he will put on anything to cover up his past, to his own downfall. And it follows along that same path, with his school friends leading him along the way, and sort of that journey of self-discovery and eventual realization, epiphany of deciding that what I had here was better the whole time. Just as Pip finds that at the forge with Joe and Biddy and his sister was really what he was meant for. And finally, the biggest twist on all of this, so we have, Hamlet, and then Great Expectations, and then we have Of Human Bondage, and then we have This Side of Paradise, culminating in The Catcher in the Rye by J.D. Salinger, which is nothing more we see in Holden Caulfield than a profoundly and professionally malcontent Pip, who is sort of fatigued with the world around him. And he has Ackley and Stradlater sort of going along with those Herbert Pocket and Bentley Drummle archetypes, one of which he is constantly trying to beat out, the other one who is just very, very dirty. It is described Ackley, and he has these pimples all over his face, but he's really, really good in heart. So we have this sort of juxtaposition between this sort of thesis and antithesis in Stradlater and Ackley. So we have Stradlater, who is someone who is, he's so clean that he shaves himself twice. And he is just gorgeous, and he is wonderful, and he's going out with all these girls, and he's sort of that, like, Bentley Drummle type who Holden is kind of competing with and says he's a phony, whereas you have Ackley, who is that dirty but really, really nice on the inside. So we end up having this professionally malcontent Pip, and he has, of course, a strained relationship with his parents. He's not orphaned this time. He is self-orphaned, so he has put this onto himself and sort of takes that with him. And again, this idea of he really, really wants to be this person who can be a child forever. And like that end of the book where he says, I just imagine all these kids playing this game in the rye, and I'm catching them, and I'm the catcher in the rye, and I'm making sure that they don't grow up. But eventually he does have to grow up and come to that realization and come to that epiphany of adulthood that Pip slowly comes throughout in the Great Expectations. So it's in the end of The Catcher in the Rye where Holden's sister, he sees her riding on the carousel, and that's his great epiphany of, oh my goodness, I should have been with her the whole time. This is where I belong. I don't belong in the streets constantly hopping from bar to bar, asking for alcohol when I'm not going to get it. I shouldn't be pretending and putting on this facade. I should accept it the way that my sister does, and the way that my family does, and sort of that reunite with the family very, very much mirrors that Great Expectations. And in all of these books, it becomes more and more apparent that while they are relying on other people for their journey is really one of the self, and they are sort of finding themselves and finding where they lay in this world. And they have an ideal that they live up to, and they realize it's awful, and they return. So it's like Icarus going up, but instead of him falling down, he chooses to re-land on the ground and realizes that I really want to be on this island. I don't wish to be up in the skies, as fun as it is, because the island is what is for me. So, among all of these, though, to take that title of human bondage and link it all up, is all characters are in some sort of bondage or slavery to their condition socially. So we have, Pip, who is bondaged to his ideal of what he wants to be. He's in bondage to that gentlemanhood, and as soon as he becomes it, he realizes that it would be incredibly difficult to go back. And then we have the of human bondage, where the character is quite literally limited by their clubfoot. They are limited in what they can do physically, but also the way that people perceive them. And so they are sort of bound to that persistent construct that they have. And then we have this side of paradise where the Amory is constantly in bondage to his condition, and in that same way wanting to be that aristocrat, or like that social leader, and he is once again he becomes a slave to that condition that he wishes for so much, and a constant slave to this persona that he has made for himself, very much mirroring that Great Expectations, and then culminating in The Catcher in the Rye, where Holden is in bondage to his own ideal of wanting to remain a child, but still wanting to be profoundly adult and do all these adult things. He's in this sort of limbo that he is constantly fatigued by because of his slavery to it. He has tied himself so much to this malcontent lifestyle that he is slave to it. He sees no other way to do it aside from the end in the book where he discovers that it is what he has and those actual qualities that are real and not constructed by himself that are what makes him happiest. And that's sort of the whole idea of Great Expectations, and going from that, starting off with Hamlet, and then going to Of Human Bondage, and then going to Great Expectations, and then going to Of Human Bondage, and then going to This Side of Paradise. And yes, while this does all link back to Hamlet, and you could all name these characters as Hamlets rather than Pips, I find myself that the connection between Great Expectations and Hamlet, while it is there, it is not so strong because of the way that Dickens sort of twists the archetype and makes it his own and begins to invent this sort of new character that we see recurring in these novels again and again and again.